know about all this fury. I was walking around North Compton and all, man. Rick, it's the 90s. Can't afford to be afraid of our own people anymore, man.
Welcome to Reality is Undefeated. I'm at Gatewood. Thank you for tuning in. That's one of the excerpts I took from Boys in the Hood to expand on with my own thoughts. Because see, we are days away from 2024, and the same can be said 33 years later. Black people, we can't afford to be afraid of our own people anymore. And not just our own people, anything. We can't afford to be afraid to have conversations. The kinds that push us forward, the kinds that hold each other accountable, the kinds that save our marriages, the kinds that keep each other from going off the edge. We can't afford to be afraid of having different viewpoints. We can't afford to be afraid to invest in each other. We can't afford to be afraid to be led by someone with our skin tone. We can't afford to be afraid to live around our people. We can't be afraid of tapping into our potential and building the things we know we are capable of. We can't afford to. It's tax on that. And with this inflation, it's too expensive to be afraid today. I was at work today listening to the great instructor, Dr. Cornel West, give a lecture at Dartmouth College. This lecture is on the historical philosophy of W.E.B. Du Bois. During this discourse, which I'm currently 5 classes in, Dr. West spoke of what I would describe as the clashes of titans, the philosophical differences between Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, as well as Dr. King and Malcolm X. All 4 being men that I, if they were alive today or I were alive then, would have shown support for. You can hear Booker T's philosophy of black people, we can build our own, flow out my mouth today. But unlike Booker T, I can never be accommodating to a people or condition that oppresses that of my own. I believe heavily in education being one of the gateways to freedom, education, ownership, and world travel. I also believe it's going to take some exceptional men to save us. But I don't believe that Du Bois's talented 10th theory has proven to work. Y'all know I'm cut from that Malcolm cloth. I don't have to say much. But for the sake of being complete, I share Malcolm's by any means necessary approach, albeit in a different era with different consequences. I, like Malcolm, in fact influenced by Malcolm, don't see anything non-black as being the standard for anything in my life. I honestly can't think of a disagreement that I would have with that brother. I don't share Dr. King's philosophy of non-violence when being met with violent opposition. However, when it comes to leading from the front, you won't find a better example. There is nothing that happened to someone else that didn't happen to Dr. King. He is as frontline gets, and that would have made it easy for me to stand with that brother. That is why I use my own shortcomings as much as possible when needing an example to teach from. I make sure that my ego is the first one hit with that shrapnel of truth. Now I know some may think, how is it possible to show support to opposing views like that of which these sets of gentlemen had? And my answer is very simple. Black men don't have to be perfect to garner my support. As a black man, I don't care about your flaws. If you care about black people the way I do, I am going to support you. I care about what that scoreboard read when the clock says zeros. I want that W in the column for my people. I don't care how many points, rebounds, or assists are in the box score next to my name. I don't care if I get the DMP. I don't care if I suit up for the game. I'm going to clap at the timeouts. I'm going to go wild every time you hit a no-look corner 3. I'm going to enjoy watching my people celebrate the chip. When I look around the world, I see people, I see culture, I hear languages, I see innovation, I see Garden of the Bay, I see Burj Khalifa. I see a stage that every name I mentioned would say we belong on because we have things to offer to the world also. And the reason we're not on that stage isn't because we lack the innovators. It's because the innovators don't have the support of the people they're trying to represent. And I'll yet again hold myself accountable first because I spent 10 months in the MSG sphere, working overtime, working weekends, putting in lights and fire alarms, making sure yet another world's first gets attributed to another group. And I don't regret it because I made hella money on that project, and I will never regret an honest day's pay. But what I do regret is when Dr. Umar went on a Breakfast Club and said he needed money for his school, I didn't give him that support so he could give us one of our first. See, Dr. Umar is not the sole reason that FDMG Academy isn't up and running. I played a hand in that also. I spent $3.14 on a vanilla milkshake to poke fun at some of the brothers that I had a disagreement with. That was $3.14, more than I had spent to help a brother achieve something bigger than himself, achieve something bigger than myself, achieve something the community needed to be achieved. When Ice Cube brought his Big 3 basketball league to Las Vegas in 2022, I took my ass to work. Instead of taking my son to go see a game that we both love to play, being played in a league created by a black man. But when the NBA Summer League came to town that year, where was I? Next to my son, in an arena, watching games, eating nachos and shit. And when they came back this year, where was I? Next to my son, in the arena, watching Wembayama debut, eating pizza and shit. So yes, I am also a part of the problem. But it's not just me. Because Dr. Umar didn't just come up $50 short on that school. Big 3 basketball league ain't just $100 underwater. We have black men building, and we have to be a part of that. We cannot let them fall flat on their faces when they are trying to give us something to call our own. Leagues where our players don't have to choose between their dignity and providing for their families, because they don't have to worry about being suspended and losing $31,000 a game like Mahmoud Abdul Rauf because they don't want to stand for this symbol of oppression. We can't let them fail when they're trying to give us schools where Daryl George wouldn't have to worry about being suspended for wearing his natural hairstyles, where Ahmed Muhammad wouldn't have to worry about being arrested for making a clock and showing it to his instructor. We can't let the fact that someone isn't in 100% agreement with us be the reason why we don't support that movement. We can't afford to. We can't afford to be afraid of progress.